Hey everyone, welcome back to Epic Bible Stories. Today, we're diving into one of the most epic and foundational stories ever told, the creation of the world and the fall of humanity. This isn't just any story. It's a narrative that has shaped civilizations, influenced cultures, and left us all wondering, what went wrong? It's a tale filled with wonder, beauty, and a profound lesson about the human condition. So, get comfortable, because we're about to embark on a journey that starts in paradise and ends with a crucial decision that changes everything. In the very beginning, before there was anything, no stars, no earth, not even time, there was God. Imagine a vast, endless darkness, a void without shape or form. And then, in a moment of divine brilliance, God spoke for a simple words that shattered the silence. Let there be light. Suddenly, light burst forth, banishing the darkness, and the universe began to take shape. But this was just the beginning. Over the next 6 days, God meticulously crafted the heavens and the earth, each element a masterpiece of design and intention. The sun was placed to govern the day, the moon to rule the night, and the stars were scattered across the sky like diamonds on velvet, each one a marker of God's infinite power and creativity. Then came the earth, vibrant and teeming with life. God filled the seas with creatures of every kind, from the smallest plankton to the great whales that dance in the deep. The land was adorned with towering mountains, lush forests, and endless plains, each one bursting with plants, trees, and flowers, every color more vibrant than the last. The air was alive with the songs of birds, and the ground trembled with the footsteps of all the animals that roamed freely. But the true pinnacle of God's creation was humanity. With careful hands, God formed Adam from the dust of the ground, breathing life into his nostrils, and man became a living soul. Adam was unique, made in the very image of God, reflecting his character, creativity, and capacity for relationship. Yet, God saw that it was not good for a man to be alone, so he caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep, took one of his ribs, and from it fashioned Eve, the first woman. Together, they were placed in the Garden of Eden, a paradise of unimaginable beauty and abundance. They were given dominion over all the earth, tasked with caring for it and filling it with life. But there was one rule, one simple command that would test their trust in God. They were not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Everything else was theirs to enjoy, but this tree, God said, was forbidden. In that moment, the seeds of the greatest story ever told were planted. Life in the Garden of Eden was nothing short of perfect. Imagine a world where every need was met, every desire fulfilled, and where peace and harmony reigned supreme. Adam and Eve lived in close communion with God, walking and talking with him in the cool of the day. They knew no pain, no sorrow, and no shame. But lurking in the shadows of this paradise was a threat, one that would unravel the very fabric of this perfect existence. In the midst of this garden stood the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the only source of temptation in a world otherwise free from sin. And it was here that Satan, the great deceiver, made his move. Disguised as a serpent, he approached Eve, his words as smooth as silk and as deadly as poison. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? He asked, sowing seeds of doubt in her mind. Eve knew the command. She knew that the fruit tree was forbidden. But the serpent was cunning, twisting the truth just enough to make disobedience seem appealing. You will not surely die, he lied. For God knows that when you eat of it your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. These words were like a spark, igniting a fire of curiosity and desire within her heart. Eve gazed at the fruit, its appearance so enticing, so perfect. She could almost taste its sweetness, feel the satisfaction of the knowledge it promised. And in that moment, she made the choice that changed everything. She took the fruit and ate it. And then, as if the weight of her decision needed to be shared, she handed it to Adam, and he took it. The moment the fruit touched their lips, their eyes were opened. But what they saw was not what they expected. Instead of wisdom and enlightenment, they were flooded with a profound sense of shame and guilt. For the first time, they realized they were exposed in more ways than one. They hastily sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves, but there was no covering for the sense of loss that now clouded their hearts. And then, they heard the sound of God walking in the garden. What had once been a source of joy now filled them with dread. They hid on the trees, hoping to escape his gaze. But God called out to them, "Where are you?" It was not just a question of location, but of their hearts. Adam, filled with fear, replied, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked. So I hid." The innocence was gone, replaced by the painful knowledge of their disobedience. The consequences were immediate and devastating. God confronted them with their sin, and the blame game began. Adam blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent. But there was no escaping the truth. They had broken the one command God had given them, and the price had to be paid. They were banished from the garden. The gates of Eden closed behind them, guarded by a flaming sword. No longer would they walk with God in the cool of the day. No longer would the earth freely yield its fruit. Pain, toil, and suffering awaited them in this new, harsh world. The serpent too was cursed, destined to crawl on its belly and eat dust all the days of its life. And in that moment, the perfect world that God had created was shattered, and the long, painful story of humanity's struggle with sin began. As Adam and Eve stood outside the gates of Eden, the reality of their choice began to sink in. The garden, once their home, now just a distant memory of paradise lost. The world they now faced was harsh and unyielding, the far cry from the perfection they had once known. The ground that had once produced an abundance of food now bore thorns and thistles. Every day was a struggle, and survival became their new reality. They worked the land with sweat and tears, and their relationship, once filled with trust and love, was now strained by blame and regret. Eve, who once walked in perfect harmony with Adam, now bore the pain of childbirth as a constant reminder of the fall. And Adam, who had once enjoyed the fruits of the garden with ease, now fought against the cursed earth for every morsel. The world was no longer a place of harmony. It had become a battleground, with sin at the heart of every conflict. Yet, even in this fallen state, there was hope. Adam and Eve had children, and their firstborn son, Cain, brought them a glimmer of joy. But as their family grew, so did the effects of sin. The same jealousy, pride, and anger that had led them to disobey God now began to manifest in their offspring. Cain, driven by envy and resentment, became the first murderer, taking the life of his own brother, Abel. This tragic event was a stark reminder that sin was not just an external force, but had taken root deep within the human heart. The earth itself seemed to mourn this act of violence, absorbing the blood of the innocent and echoing the cries of pain and injustice that would follow throughout history. For his crime, Cain was cursed to be a wanderer, marked by God so that no one would kill him, but forever carrying the weight of his guilt. The very earth that had once provided for him now resisted his efforts, and he became a restless soul, doomed to roam a world that was increasingly filled with violence and strife. And so, the world grew, both in population and in wickedness. The descendants of Adam and Eve spread across the earth, but instead of living in harmony with God and each other, they became increasingly corrupt. Violence, deception, rebellion became the new normal, and the beauty of God's creation was marred by the destructive force of sin. But even in the darkest moments, God's promise to redeem humanity was never forgotten. Through the pain and the suffering, there was a thread of hope, a promise that one day His Savior would come to restore what was lost, to heal the brokenness, and to bring humanity back into right relationship with God. And so, we come to the end of this ancient and profound story. A story that has echoed through the corridors of history and touched the hearts of countless generations. The tale of creation and the fall of man is not just a story of the past. It's a mirror that reflects the reality of our world today, a world filled with beauty and brokenness, love and loss, hope and despair. As we reflect on Adam and Eve's journey, we see ourselves in their choices, their struggles, and their consequences. We too live in a world marred by sin, where the effects of the fall are all around us. Yet, just as their story didn't end in the garden, neither does ours. There is a thread of redemption woven through the fabric of human history. A promise that the brokenness we see is not the final word. From the moment humanity fell, God set in motion a plan to restore what was lost. Through the prophets, the covenants, and ultimately through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, God has been working to heal the rift between Himself and His creation. Jesus, often referred to as the second Adam, came to undo the curse that began in Eden. Where Adam failed, Christ succeeded, living a life of perfect obedience and laying down His life so that we might be reconciled to God. This story reminds us that sin has real consequences that are still felt in our lives today. But it also reminds us that redemption is possible, that no matter how far we've fallen, God's grace is sufficient to lift us up. The cross stands for the beacon of hope, a symbol that God has not abandoned us, and that through Christ, we can have forgiveness, healing, and a new beginning. So, what can we learn from this story? We learn that while sin is powerful, it is not all-powerful. We learn that though we live in a fallen world, we are not without hope. And we learn that God's love for us is so great that He was willing to pay the ultimate price to bring us back to Himself. As you go about your life, remember that the story of creation and the fall is not just about the past, it's about the present and the future. It's about your story and the choices you make every day. Will you choose to follow the path of Adam, or will you embrace the redemption offered through Christ? Thank you for joining me on this journey through the opening chapters of Genesis. I hope this exploration has given you new insights and perhaps even inspired you to reflect on your own life and your relationship with God. If you found this video meaningful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And if you're seeking more answers or want to dive deeper into God's plan for your life, check out the resources we've linked in the description below. Remember, the story isn't over. There's a new chapter waiting to be written, yours. Until next time, stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next video.